The next presenter is Kristen Davenport, who is in the Microbiology, Immunology, and Pathology program and the DVM PhD program, or department, and then the DVM PhD program. And the title of her presentation is The Case of the Misbehaving Proteins.
Some of the scariest human diseases were not originally human diseases at all, but came from the animals who share our environment. Swine flu, the Black Plague, rabies, Ebola, all jumped from their animal hosts to humans. These diseases are all caused by bacteria or viruses, pathogens we understand fairly well. We know that DNA controls everything about these pathogens, from the host they infect, to the types of symptoms they cause, to the way they transmit between individuals. But there's another disease that jumped from animals to humans. Mad cow disease is caused not by a virus or a bacteria, but only by a misbehaving protein. Mad cow disease swept through the United Kingdom in the late 1980s, and 4.5 million cattle were killed in an attempt to stop it. Even scarier, 177 people died from the human form of mad cow disease. But mad cow disease is caused only by a protein. If DNA is the recipe for the cell, proteins are the cookies. They don't provide instructions, they're just used by the cell. So my thesis question is simply this. If changes to the DNA recipe can't explain how mad cow disease jumped to humans, what can? Mad cow disease is now very rare, but chronic wasting disease, its cousin, is spreading rapidly through deer and elk in the United States. Both diseases are caused by the same protein, which is in the brains of all mammals. When the protein misbehaves, it piles up like burned cookies, and the brain can't clean it up. Eventually, neurons die from the stress, and the patient loses precious brain tissue. But chronic wasting disease doesn't seem to be infecting humans, even if they eat sick deer. So what's the difference between chronic wasting disease and mad cow disease? So far, I've made two interesting findings. The first is that chronic wasting disease seems to change when it enters a new species. I looked at the brains of cats with chronic wasting disease, and the proteins in those cat brains looked really different from the proteins in the brains of infected deer. This suggests that chronic wasting disease changes in a new species, and that if it were to infect humans, we might not recognize it, because it's going to look like a new disease. On the other hand, mad cow disease, when it infected cats, looked basically the same as when it infected cows. So mad cow disease we can understand a little better, we can follow it better. Second, I observed that chronic wasting disease proteins can cause human proteins to misbehave. We didn't think this was likely because, again, people don't seem to be getting chronic wasting disease. But this suggests that at least the first step of human disease could be caused by chronic wasting disease proteins. This matters because we don't know which animal disease will be the next Ebola. We need to understand how animal diseases can pass to humans. It's possible that my comparison of mad cow disease and chronic wasting disease will help us understand how a protein from an animal could kill a human. Thank you.